But in terms of the country, we have one Secretary of State. And that Secretary of State sets foreign policy for the entire nation, for all of us. And this isn't a game. This is life and death. This is war and peace. And we have alliances that predate this administration. We have enemies who predate this administration. This president is almost single-handedly focused on undermining the country of Israel. His Secretary of State, before this one, Hillary Clinton, same thing. I don't care if she was from New York and this jerk is from Massachusetts. They're showing their stripes, aren't they? Over at the Daily Beast, Josh Rogan got an exclusive. Kerry warns Israel could become an apartheid state if there's no two-state solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict soon. What is the Gaza Strip? Will somebody please tell me that? What is that? Well, that is a launching off point for terrorists against Israel, for firing missiles into Israel. Used to be Egyptian. The Israelis conquered it when they were attacked. They gave it to the Palestinians, who never had any claim to it, any legitimate claim to it. And now the most radical terroristic elements in the Palestinian movement are there. Now they're supposed to surrender the West Bank, which historically was Jewish. And what? Bethlehem, too, which I believe historically was Christian. You Christians know. But the whole damn thing apparently belongs to the Palestinians. Who knew? It's right there in the Bible. No, it's not. But that aside, this is Kerry, today, modern times. If there's no two-state solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, Israel risks becoming, quote, an apartheid state, unquote. Secretary of State, not basketball team owner. Secretary of State John Kerry told a room of influential world leaders in a closed-door meeting Friday. And you see Josh Rogan at the Daily Beast got a tape of this. A lot of taping going on. Wasn't the only controversial comment on the Middle East that Kerry made during his remarks to the Trilateral Commission, a recording of which was obtained by the Daily Beast. Kerry also repeated his warning that a failure of Mideast peace talks could lead to a resumption of Palestinian violence against Israeli citizens. It's almost as if he's encouraging it, daring it. Really? Well, if you don't do this, you're going to be attacked. Kerry also said at some point he might unveil his own peace deal and tell both sides take it or leave it. I guess he could say, I have a pen and I have a phone. Maybe he could pull one of those. You know, I was thinking about this today. Obama and Kerry treat international relations the way they treat the Republicans in Congress. If you don't do what I say, I'll do what I want anyway. Or I'll just walk away. That's what they do. A two-state solution, Kerry told this group of senior officials and experts from the U.S., Western Europe, Russia, Japan, and so forth, will be clearly understood as the only real alternative, because a unitary state winds up either being an apartheid state with second-class citizens, or it ends up being a state that destroys the capacity of Israel to be a Jewish state. Now, we had Caroline Glick on this show, who easily and completely demonstrated what a pack of lies this is, coming from the Palestinian side. The fact of the matter is, Arabs/Palestinians in Israel are treated as citizens if they are citizens. They have due process under the law. They're elected to the Knesset. How are the Jews treated in the West Bank under Palestinian control? There aren't any. Kerry going on. Once you put that frame in your mind, that reality, is this guy full of bombast? He's just pathetic. Which is the bottom line. You understand how imperative it is to get to the two-state solution, with both leaders, even yesterday, said they remain deeply committed to. Now, according to the 1998 Rome Statute, did you know that there was a 1998 Rome Statute? Well, now you know. The crime of apartheid is defined as inhuman acts committed in the context of an institutionalized regime of systemic oppression and domination by one racial group over any other racial group or groups, and committed with the intention of maintaining that regime. The term is most often used in reference to the system of racial segregation and oppression that governed South Africa from 1948 until 1994. This is not what occurs in Israel. Leading experts, including Richard Goldstone, a former justice of the South African Constitutional Court, who led the UN's fact-finding mission on the Gaza conflict of 2008 and 2009, have argued that comparisons between the Israeli treatment of the Palestinians and apartheid are offensive and wrong. And he wrote in the New York Times a couple of years ago, one particularly pernicious and enduring canard that is surfacing again is that Israel pursues apartheid policies. It's an unfair and inaccurate slander against Israel, calculated to retard rather than advance peace negotiations. Well, there you go. That's John Kerry. And not a word from the President of the United States. He'll be asked about this clown who owns the Clippers, and he'll have plenty to say, but he'll never be asked about his Secretary of State, and even if he is, he'll mumble through. He won't condemn him because he agrees with him. Because Kerry is his mouthpiece. Because Kerry is saying what Obama would say if he was there. Back in March, Kerry warned that Israel was facing a growing delegitimization campaign that will increase should Israel fail to achieve peace in this round of talks. Quote, the risks are very high for Israel, he said. And what he's talking about is this boycott, divest, and sanction campaign. That will intensify in the case of failure. So in other words, if Israel does not capitulate and surrender, in essence, or to be more blunt, prepare for suicide, well then, we can accuse them of apartheid, because that's what's going to happen, Kerry says. Or this boycott, divest, sanction effort will rise up and become more intense. Or as Kerry said in November of last year, the alternative to getting back to talks is the potential of chaos. Does Israel want a third intifada? Do you say this about an ally? Do you basically incentivize our allies' enemies, and in many respects they're our enemies too, by saying in essence if Israel doesn't buckle under, then it'll become an apartheid state? Or this boycott, divest, sanction effort will expand, wink, wink? There'll be a third intifada, wink, wink? And this is the eve of Holocaust Remembrance Day, and nobody gives a damn. And he's the Secretary of State. So everybody, forget about the Secretary of State. Forget about what's going on. Forget about life and death, war and peace issues. Because now we're focused on the NBA, and we're focused on this owner. And we're going to focus on him at least for, 2 weeks or a week. And we're going to all condemn him, as we should. He'll either be forced out or something will happen. Whatever it is, and they'll go on their merry way, truthfully, unaffected. The owners unaffected, the billionaires, the millionaires who play the game unaffected, they won't miss a check. But in the meantime, there's real life and death stuff going on. And the Secretary of State should resign. I know he won't, but he should, because he's pathetic. And let me repeat, so all of my haters and enemies can hear me loud and clear. I don't use this word often, but it's obvious he's an anti-Semite. And it is also obvious to me, and I've said this many times before, that this president hates Israel. I guess he wants to fundamentally transform Israel, too.